Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We are working on preparations for our update schools. I'm Amy Siegel and I'm the Vice President here at ASA.
And I'm Tina Wiseman, your Strategic Planning Specialist.
And you all are on the home stretch. So we're going to turn off our we're going to turn off our cameras and jump right in. Okay, so you all have come a long way. In the fall semester, you were implementing the plan for the current year. And then you started updating your organizational structure. Update 3 schools updated their vision and vision data. We looked at current data. We set new goals. We found root causes. And our last step, we worked on interventions. And today, we are working on preparation. And as you can see from our map here, each step builds on the one before. So it's important to stay on task. And to help you do that, Tina sends out the friendly reminders. And those get sometimes more frequent as the year goes on because we've got some urgency to get your plan finished on time. We also want to give you enough time to involve all your stakeholders and give everybody adequate time to think and to really write a good plan for the coming year.
Here's our agenda for the day. We're going to, first of all, talk about why prepare interventions. We're going to talk about preparation components, setting up the preparations. Amy's going to demonstrate how to do that on the online system. Then we'll look at the rubric and see what all is expected on there. Remember, always check the rubric first, and that'll save you a lot of time. Then we'll talk about the importance and how to do the professional development section along with the reports, and then, hallelujah, confirming that SIP completion. First of all, why do we prepare interventions? Well, the reason that we want to do that is because we want to increase the odds that the intervention is fully implemented with integrity. It is so easy to leave little bits and pieces out that sometimes can make or break an intervention. We know your work's going to be wasted if they aren't fully implemented. And so when we're talking about the preparation part, we're talking about actually preparing for the implementation so that when you go into this next fall, everything's already in place, everything's already set, the lists have already been made, the calendar's already been lined out, you're just ready to roll. And that's what you want to be able to do. Do we need to prepare all the interventions? No, you don't, because some of them that are usually the low energy continuations, they're already in place and they require no preparation. They just require kind of an audience knowing that they're still around. Do you need to prepare most interventions? Yes. And the reason that you do there is because you don't want to waste time on something that just because it lacked preparation. And you can have a really good idea. If you don't have all the structure and the scaffolding underneath it, it's not going to work. And then can you change your mind? Of course. You can edit the initial preparation for the intervention, and Amy will show you how to do that after a while. With the preparation components, and these are those different tabs that Amy will show you here in a bit, you'll have an evaluation, and that's going to measure the change the intervention has made, and note this, in the adult group that it targets, not the kids. But remember, you first have to change the adult behavior before you can change what's going on with the kids. So every evaluation will be evaluating the change that's made in the adult group that it targets. The professional development, there again, this is all adult-based. It's planning the activities needed to actually train the adults so that you can get that change in behavior. Your resources, identify your resources needed to implement the intervention and plan activities needed to acquire them. Resources are pretty much your time and then your stuff that you need. What all do you need? Make your laundry list. Figure out what it is that you need. Sometimes over planning is better than under planning, because then you're not going to be showing up for some event or something and then thinking we just forgot to put down 5 things that would really make this work a lot more smoothly. So make sure that you really plan those resources. And then of course, you're going to have to identify your funding if you need it. I'm always a big believer that, everybody should run their boat like they don't have 2 dimes to rub together, but sometimes it takes a little more than 2 dimes. So make sure that if you have a big activity or something that's an investment rather than just an event or something, that you invest accordingly and that you have the funding that you need for that.
So setting up preparations actually began when you were working on your interventions in the last step. When you were editing your intervention, tab 3 includes these additional intervention development needs. And so when you check those, that's really your first step in setting up the preparations. And all of that should look very familiar. Those are the tabs we were just talking about. So there are a couple of ways that you can edit which preparations need to have, or which interventions need preparation. So in this example, you'll see that our second intervention, the attendance mentors, that didn't have any additional intervention needs. It didn't have any of those checked off. So when you open the preparations, you could see something that's grayed out exactly like attendance mentors. And that just tells you that there were no checks on the initial setup. You can click that yellow edit icon under revise, and that'll take you to that initial setup tab. And I'll show you that in just a moment. When you get into each of your preparations, you'll see that the tabs are set up. They correspond to what you did when you were editing your intervention in the last step. And then if you need to make changes, so let's say that we're looking at this and we realize that we actually don't need any funding for this because, say we got funding last year, we just need to continue what we were doing, from on this intervention. So you don't need funding. You can click that link, the edit this intervention's additional intervention development needs, and again, it's going to take you to where you can edit those tabs. And that looks like this. So if you clicked that link, or if you clicked the yellow edit icon on your list page, you come back here, you make your changes, you click save, and then it'll ask you if you want to go back to the intervention. Or I'm sorry, back to your preparation. So let's do a look at this in the online system. Okay. So we are on the process page, and we're looking at the preparation section under number 9. It's our April work. You'll see we've got some steps ahead of this. One of them I want to point out, in step 3, we have a report that gives you the details for your current year. And I recommend before you get started making changes to go ahead and print that out so that you have a hard copy, because once you start saving changes, then that work from last year is gone. So if you don't have that saved from last year, and I know I wouldn't because I don't keep a lot of paper around, just go ahead and have that so that you have it as a reference as you're working, just in case you need to go back to anything. So that'll just open your report, and all your details that you put in from last year are right here. Okay, so then we go to step 4, update preparation details. Click on the edit icon, and that gives us our preparation list. We have some text up here, and if you're new to doing this, it'd be a great idea to read through that and just be familiar with the whole process. As I said before, if we decided, let's say that we wanted to do some preparation work on this attendance mentors, just for example, we could click on this, and let's say that we know that we need to do professional development. And if we're doing professional development, we really want to do evaluation to make sure that our professional development was effective. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then it'll ask me if I want to select another intervention or if I want to return to the intervention preparation, and that's what I want to do. Oh, that gives me back to this place. Let me go back to, well, that's not where I wanted to be. Okay, here we are back on our list. I'm going to refresh, and now I can edit attendance mentors. And let's say that we've decided that this phone call to home, student absent, that we've been doing this for a long time and we really don't need to have preparation for that. We can click here, we can undo our checks and save. And then I'm going to go back and refresh. And now I see that this one is grayed out. Okay, so that's how we make those changes to which ones actually need preparation. And then we'll go back to, let's work on 7th grade ratios unit. Click on the edit icon. And so I would just go through and edit these just like I would anything. Let's look at the setup first. If we wanted to change something like, say, we know that this is going to cover us, we don't need other tasks, we can edit, uncheck other tasks, save, and then go back to the intervention preparation. And now our other task tab is gone. Okay. Once we're here, let's talk about editing our preparations. The big thing, because you're update schools, if this is a preparation that you are continuing, that this is something that we started last year, maybe we've had in our plan for a while because it meets one of our external expectations, the big thing will be checking dates. So even if we're using the exact same evaluation, our baseline data now is from 2009, or well, this is November 2018, so that could be right. I think I already updated this one, I'm sorry. The evaluation date now is going to be in 2020. And we just use our calendar. March 2020, we'll say we're doing it on the 1st. Our target data is still 100. John Smith is still going to collect our data. And once I'm done, I click the entry for this tab is complete and save. And now I've got a check mark, and that lets me know that this one is done and I can move on. Especially if you're going to be sharing work, it's really great to remember to do the entry for this tab is complete. Again, on professional development, if we're going to be doing the same professional development activities, we want to check the dates and update those so that they're for the coming year. It's also possible if this is something that we've been working on and we're not being as successful as we want, we might be changing the professional development. We might not need introduction if we haven't put new teachers in this department. We could be more into preparation, early use, and routine use. We might be adding new activities. To add a new activity, we just click on the link for adding a new activity, fill out the form, make sure we're putting in a date, and save, and then that'll appear on our list. So be careful checking these over, make sure you're updating everything that needs to be updated. On professional development, we do have links to the ASA Professional Development Activity Planning Guide and also to the Indiana State Board of Education's Core Professional Development Principles. So those are documents that can come in handy as you're doing this work. So we would do the same thing. We're looking at resources. This one got a little wonky because we put a link in here. Yeah, that's unusual. Okay, we would go to edit and yeah, we would make changes to this. Let's say that we're still gonna do this activity, but we need to do it in 2020. And we save our new date. This all works very similarly. In resources, you want to make sure that you're talking about what materials and human resources are needed, putting a good description on that so that everybody knows what's going on. The same thing with funding, figure out how much funding we need to find, and then make sure we've detailed how that's going to be used. I'm a fan of Plan A and Plan B. If we can secure funding, we want to do this. If we can't secure funding, then we'll scale back and do that. But think of all the places in your community that you can find funding. If it's asking your PTO to raise money to support an intervention, we know that lots of PTOs will do that. If it's going to a community foundation and writing a grant, of course, always asking your superintendent if there are funds available. It could be something that you would end up presenting to the school board. You might go to local businesses who have a vested interest in your school succeeding, and see if you can get funding from them. You all know all the pots of money in your community. Don't be afraid. If you've got an intervention that's going to help your kids succeed, don't be afraid to get out there and look for it. But again, in case the funding doesn't come through, it's a great idea to have a plan A and a plan B. If we don't get the funding, then we'll do it another way. Okay, so once we have all this edited, we can go back to the select another intervention and submit this for review. And as you know, with our system, we have to have all of our preparations have to meet criteria before we can move on to other steps. So I'm going to go ahead, even though I'm not editing these, you all would be, but I'm going to go ahead and submit these for review so that we can continue with the demonstration. And last one. Okay, so now all of them have been submitted except the one I couldn't edit. Tina's already started reviewing because Tina's on it, and we see that one of them has met criteria. I'm going to go back to the process page. This is the time of the year where it's going to be important for you to be checking your process page frequently. You'll notice as Tina works, this gets updated to tell you how many met criteria, how many are still submitted. If any need revision, that'll be on here too. If something meets criteria, see comments, that's on here. You click the status and it's going to take you to your list, and you can always click on the status and get your review. Of course, when Tina does the review for real, there'll be comments like this. Great job. Okay. So that is our list. We go back to preparation. I'm going to refresh that again. All right, so all of my preparations have met criteria now. So the last thing, or the next step for me, you can see that the steps that are orange, saying that they're unavailable, that this first one says that all preparations have to meet criteria and the preparation completion has to be confirmed. So that's step 5. So before I can move on, I'm going to need to confirm that all the preparation details have been added. We'll go back to process, scroll down to preparations. Okay, so now I can submit my professional development summary. Of course, before I do, I want to look that over and make sure that everything looks like I expect it to. Obviously, if I were looking at this, I've got work to do. I didn't get professional development activities entered for some of my interventions. So I would still have work to do. You want to look that over, check it against your rubric, and always, we always have the rubric down here. This time it's in step 9. So my professional development summary, The professional development activities collectively create a culture of collegiality and collaboration. So I want to read that over and really make sure that that's true for my submission before I submit it. And then you'll notice the next step, step 7, is our professional development summary, seeking our local teacher association approval. We can't do that until the professional development summary meets criteria. We'll talk about the remaining reports and what we're doing with those later in the presentation. I just want to remind you all that there are checks here so that things are working in order, because when you work out of order on these things, you can really end up with a mess. We'll go back to the presentation. So the individual preparation rubric. Each preparation review will only include the rubric items for the tabs included in the preparation. So if I had only had tabs for evaluation and professional development, those are the only sections I'm going to see on my rubric. If I have all of them, then I'm going to see all of them. So looking through those, we want to make sure that the evaluation identifies the targeted adult group. The evaluation identifies what will be counted to determine if the adults have implemented the intervention fully and with integrity. We want to make sure baseline data and the date that that'll be collected are present, that the evaluation data is present, and the target data is present. In professional development, we're looking for professional development includes a series of activities which address changing intervention stages. Professional development addresses a variety of adult learning styles. Professional development, for the most part, occurs during contract hours. We know that we need to find time during the day for teachers, because if we're outside of contract hours, we can have problems with our Teachers Association. The person responsible has been identified and the date has been identified for all of the professional development activities. In funding securement, we're making sure that the intervention is adequately funded, that the person responsible has been identified, and the date has been identified. In resource securement, we're looking for adequate resources have been identified. A sound plan exists for obtaining the resources. The person responsible has been identified, and the date has been identified. We have a section for other tasks if that's something, if we haven't covered everything you need, but we don't evaluate that. That is really just for your use. I'll turn it over to Tina.
Okay. Now we're going to be designing your professional development. Your professional development comes in stages. So you're going to have interest, preparation, early use, routine use. And some of these things, you may come across all of these in one school year, depending upon what the activity is. In some cases, it might take a year for each one of these. So that's going to depend upon you and what you decide within your building and within your steering team and your council. So when you get to the stage of interest, of course, the question is, what is it? And how will it impact me? Your focus is just basic general information, and very important, checking and trying to get rid of anti-resistance. And sometimes that takes a year. So, you know, you can focus it accordingly. And then your activities are going to be something like group presentation. It might be one-to-one discussions. It could be going to schools to visit that have this professional development already in place. So this is going to be very school-centric as far as what you're doing. The next stage is preparation. And once you get through the interest, you get the info to everybody, you've really narrowed down the anti-resistance, maybe it's gone completely, then people are ready to figure out how they're going to do it. And so the focus then, it would be professional development that is that involves knowledge and skills, rehearsal, maybe in the classroom, you know, walking back and forth, seeing what's going on, practicing with each other, how you're going to present it to your class. You're going to have reflection, lots of reflection, you know, chit-chat about it in the workroom or just wherever about how things are going, and then feedback. And activities for this could be a workshop, it can be a small learning communities, it can be one-to-one coaching. So there again, completely school-centric, up to you. The early use phase is, am I doing this right? Am I doing it okay with it? And so in that case, it's always good to invite someone else to do an observation. There again, lots of reflection and lots of feedback. So at this point in time, you might have like a principal observation, you may have a peer observation. You may again use your small learning communities or one-to-one coaching. And then finally, you get into routine use. We're using this, but have we plateaued? And so how can I improve this to get it even better? And so knowledge and skills at this point, you're going to have some good research and development going on there. So you can talk about that and building the knowledge and building the skills. And then always, 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 as you can tell, reflection and feedback. And the activities at this point in time may really vary. It may be you're getting very independent. You may be doing, still doing the small learning communities. You may still be doing one-to-one coaching. It really truly varies. So that's going to be up to you. We do have for you a professional development planning guide. And this goes through every one of the levels, introduction through routine use. And you can see that this just kind of helps you figure out what's going on with each stage of the intervention implementation. And so, feel free, click on that link, go to it, use these tools. These are for you to use. I'm kind of like, I'm definitely like Amy in the way that, and I'm probably 10 times worse. If there's a piece of paper to be had that I can scribble on, I'm a happy person. And so in this case, this is something that you can print out, and then you can just kind of really get it narrowed down to where it's something that you're really happy with.
Tina, I just want to mention, this is something that Sue Reynolds, our president, wrote, and she did that based on all of our years of experience working with schools implementing professional development. So this is not pie in the sky stuff. This comes from the work you all have been doing for years now.
And then the professional development summary rubric, what I'm going to be checking is that the professional development has been included for all the comprehensive strategies. So if you have a pretty good strategy going there or an intervention, you are going to definitely need to have some good professional development going with it, because unfortunately this sinks a lot of ships. I've been in that situation myself where you're told to go do something, but no one really bothers to tell you what the expectations are or how to get it done, what the expectations are, and all that, and that just creates nothing but frustration. So make sure that you build that scaffolding for the people that are going to be involved. And then the professional activities collectively create a culture of collegiality and collaboration. And that's part of that scaffolding, because you don't want to leave anybody out in the cold. And so make sure that you approach this as a team effort, and that you have everybody's back, and that you get everybody covered for what they're going to need. And then even the most reluctant person, you're not giving them an excuse, because if there's a hole in this, they're going to find it. So make sure that you really check these two items out, because it looks small and it's like, oh, there's only two things she's going to check. But within that, you can see there's a whole lot to that.
And then also be sure to check your rubric online for criteria specific to your school's SIP uses. If your title
definitely
more requirements and things like that. So let's look at your reports. So this is an individual preparation report, and this gives all of the details for the preparation. And we want to make sure that the people responsible for the intervention receive copies of their respective preparation reports. Putting somebody's name on there, it's just not fair to not give them the plan so that they know what they're expected to do. And you probably, even before you submit it, it'd be a great idea to consult with that person responsible, make sure that they feel like everything that they need has been entered, that they're feeling good about implementing this. And that may mean, you go back and make some changes for them. But you want to make sure that the person responsible definitely has buy-in. And then the professional development summary. Just a reminder, we have a step for this, that you're going to need to seek local teacher association approval for your professional development summary. And just make sure you have that on file, that they've signed off on it. And last but not least, the preparation calendar report. This will give everybody the dates when everything's going to be happening, whether it's professional development or it's funding, and we also list the person responsible so that everybody knows if they're expected to do something, what that date is. And we want to make sure that we're giving it to them early so that they can put dates in their calendars ahead of time and nobody is taken off guard.
And lo and behold, that last step, those of you who've been around this block before, which would be all of you, know that probably the silly idea of a bunch of balloons on a screen it's one of the nicest things you'll ever see. And I'm as happy to click on that and have you click as anybody, and I know Amy feels the same way. So once all those submissions, including all the interventions and preparations, have met criteria, you submit that step 10, and there's your balloons. So that's what we're all shooting for, is that screen right there, and that means it's ready to be a success at this point, and all your hard work has come to an end, and then it's just put it into place and put it into practice.
And then the next section, let me switch over so we can look at that. When you confirm your SIP completion and Tina reviews that, of course, our step 11 is celebrate, because yeah, you've done it. But then we also have down here where you can download your school improvement plan after it's been generated. And then you're ready to take that to your superintendent. If your superintendent wants you to present it to the school board, you've got that, you can get there okay, and then you're ready whenever it is that DOE wants this, you're ready to upload it for them. So that, and as soon as we have information about that, we'll make sure that that's updated on our system too. So yay. Now, on the home stretch, if you need help, and this is another one of those critical stages where consultation with Tina, either if you've got a problem, if you don't remember how something works in the online system, give her a holler. Or if you need, if you're designing your professional development and you want to run it past her, she looks at a lot of professional development plans. So this is a great time to get in touch with her and just make sure that your plan is as strong as it can possibly be.
We want you to have nothing but success.
Absolutely. So thank you all for all your hard work. I know this will be our last video for you all, and we really enjoy doing them, and hope that you find them helpful.
Have a great day.